All right, I got another video for you. This is we'll go through the NBC News versus the CNN one and see if there's any differences in it. But Wisconsin Supreme Court strikes down state's stay-at-home order. The ruling said the state health secretary's emergency order is unlawful, invalid, and unenforceable. So this came out on May 13th. The Wisconsin Supreme Court on Wednesday struck down the state stay-at-home order during the coronavirus pandemic as unlawful, invalid, and unenforceable after finding that the state's health secretary exceeded her authority. In a 4-3 ruling, the court called Health Services Secretary Andrea Palm's directive, known as Emergency Order 28, a vast seizure of power. See, there seems to be a lot of these governors and stuff, and like certain officials, even people that are like unelected officials, like in Ohio, like technically, like Dr. Acton is like the head health person in Ohio, but they've kind of been given like powers because of certain issues, and like they're unelected officials and like they're granting orders and stuff now, and people are getting tired of like this happening. That seems to be a big issue as well. The order directed all people in the state to stay home or at their place of residence, subject only to exceptions allowed by Palm. The ruling says the order, which had been set to run until May 26, also restricted travel and business, along with threatening jail time or fines for those who don't comply. The ruling says the judges weren't challenging Democratic Governor Tony Everett's emergency powers, but the decision effectively undercuts his administration and forces him to work out a compromise with the Republican-controlled legislature. There's a lot of these people are like just putting in orders without like they're like trying to enact these orders as new laws, which they can't. They have to like go through the legislator of their states and do it that way to enact laws that are to be followed. One of the dissenting justices, Rebecca Dallett, said her conservative colleagues in the majority were the ones who were exceeding their authority. And she noted President for Palm's directives a months-long stay-at-home order during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. That was 102 years ago. The decision will undoubtedly go down as one of the most blatant examples of judicial activism in this court's history. She said it will be Wisconsinites who pay the price. There's a lot of this like fear-mongering going on too. It's like, oh, if you don't stay at home, you're going to die, and you're going to spread it, and you're going to die. But that kind of takes away from the fact all the essential employees have been out working this whole time. One of the studies has shown that like the median age of death of the coronavirus is 81, while the median death in general of the population is 80. So it's like a higher in age of death rate than what it normally is. So it's like the immune compromised, the elderly, the sick are the ones who are the ones most affected. Like healthy people are like not. There's like been a few like exceptionally low cases where they become infected. The decision is the result of the legislator's lawsuit against the Health Services Department, alleging that Palm's directives overreach and asking the court to grant relief to give the legislator a seat at the table in the rulemaking process. During oral arguments, Justice Rebecca Brandy suggested that the order amounted to tyranny. And at another point, she referred to Japanese Americans' internment during World War II. Okay, I mean, like being forced to stay at home and not be able to make a living can be close to internment in some regards. And like the government overreaching is a form of tyranny. Like we have the Bill of Rights set up specifically to stop government from overreach. Chief Justice Patient Roggensack actively questioned both sides and was later criticized for seemingly to have downplayed a spike in cases connected to a JBS meatpacking in Green Bay. I believe if it's the same meatpacking one, there was like a whole facility that was tested, and I think most or majority had it, but they were like all asymptomatic. Like most people that have this won't even realize they have it because a majority of the cases are asymptomatic. Some are mild. Then from what the numbers come out, like a very, very small amount is like fatal. Like it's sitting right around what the seasonal flu is in the fatality percentage. Spikes in cases were due to the meat packing, though that's where Brown County got the flare. It wasn't just the regular folks in Brown County, Roggensack said in response to the Health Services Department highlighting the spread of the virus. We actually want a majority of people to get it to some degree to have herd immunity established in the U.S. I believe in Sweden they have either reached it or they're very close to, because there was a ophthalmologist saying like the best way to beat respiratory diseases is like for the population to reach herd immunity. There have been almost 11,000 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Wisconsin and 421 deaths, according to NBC News coronavirus tracker. Republicans believe business owners can safely reopen using the guidelines provided by the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. The Republican leaders of legislators said in a statement after the ruling. Ever said, up until now, Wisconsin was in a pretty good place in our battle against COVID-19. We cannot let today's ruling undo all the work we have done and all the sacrifices Wisconsinites have made over the past few months. He said in a statement, I am disappointed in the decision today, but our top priority has been and will remain doing what we can and what we have to do to protect the health and safety of the people in our states. There's this big thing, too, like, because pretty much Georgia and Florida had, like, reopened. They're like, oh, in 2 weeks we're going to see all these mass spike amount of cases, and it's been over 2 weeks now, and it's like they're pretty much on track with everybody else. I know in South Dakota, like they didn't have any actual like lockdown orders, just like, hey, use precaution, but we as the government, Governor Kristi Noem said we can't tyrannically overstep and do this stuff. So let's get into what the CNN article says about it. And, of course, this one came out like the next day, so this one's like May 14th. Wisconsin Supreme Court strikes down state stay-at-home order. It may be a lot of the same stuff. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has overturned the state stay-home order, ruling it unlawful and unenforceable in a high-profile win for the state's Republican-led legislator. The 4-3 decision Wednesday, the court ruled the Democratic Governor Tony Evers' administration overstepped its authority when the State Department of Health Service extended the order to May 26. That's like here in Ohio, it was like our order was supposed to end on May 1st. Then literally the night of like April 30th, like that night, they went and extended it for like 4 weeks on some kind of plan that may or may not work on like some of these phases and levels. And also, if you live in California, I feel kind of bad for you, but if you live in California, you kind of know what you're in for, or you should be. And this whole, I think this whole issue is going to turn a lot of people that like maybe were left, were liberal, maybe center. They're like seeing like a lot of these like how these like Democratic governors are acting, like Newsom, Cuomo, Whitmer. And, like they're doing like authoritative like lockdown type things. Like Whitmer's executive action was like, oh, if you have a boat with a motor, you can't use it on lake, but if it's a rowboat, you can. You got to stay at your house, but if you happen to own property somewhere else, you can't go to that property. There's like a lot of these like things that didn't make like any sense. And like I was saying, like California, like they somehow for some reason like extended their lockdown for like 3 months. You have like people like Joe Rogan talking about like he's going to move out of California if this goes on. You have people like Elon Musk talking about Like, he actually just, he was saying, because I guess with him, like the state government said it was fine, and the local government said it was fine for him to like start reopening the Tesla factory to start like manufacturing stuff again. But for some reason, like the Alameda County was, they had like an issue with it. Then they like went and reopened anyway, and they kind of pushed against it and like helped them out, or kind of went against them, and so far so good. But we'll get into this. The ruling comes after legislative Republican leaders filed a lawsuit last month arguing the order would cost Wisconsin residents their jobs and hurt many companies, asserting that if it was left in place, our state would be in shambles. The suit, filed specifically against State Department of Health Services Secretary designee Andrea Palm and other health officials who made the decision in mid-April to extend the state's safer at home emergency order. And also that whole safer home thing is a very like conceited idea, because like they're like, I need to be at home and you need to stay at home and be safe unless you work in the supply chain and you need to get me stuff, then you need to work. But otherwise you need to stay home or you're gonna kill everybody. At the same time as the extension, the state loosened some restrictions on certain businesses, including golf courses, public libraries, and arts and crafts stores. But the justices wrote in their decision Wednesday that an agency cannot confer on itself the power to dictate the lives of law-abiding individuals as comprehensively as the order does without reaching beyond the executive branch's authority. I mean, it's the whole thing. There's like checks and balances between the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. Evers, who had ordered Palm to issue the stay-at-home order in late March, told CNN's Don Lemon, that's so great, later Wednesday that the court's ruling puts our state into chaos. Now we have no plan and no protections for the people of Wisconsin, Evers said. When you have more people in a small place, I don't care if it's in bars, restaurants, or your home, you're going to be able to spread the virus. And so now today, thanks to Republican legislators who convinced 4 Supreme Court justices to not look at the law, but look at their political careers, I guess is about. See how they're like, they're not even arguing the point. They're like, oh, they're just being political. Although you can like congregate in groups in Target, in Walmart, in Sam's Club, any of those other places is fine. But if you do it specifically at places that they don't deem essential, then it's a bad thing. It's the wild, wild west, he said. And in a statement released separately Wednesday night, the governor encouraged people in his state to continue to stay safer at home, practice social distancing, and limit travel because, folks, deadly viruses don't wait around for politicians and bureaucrats to settle their differences or promulgate rules. Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald claimed in a joint statement after filing their lawsuit that there was immense frustration regarding the extension of the order and that Evers has denied the people a voice through his unprecedented administrative reach. Unfortunately, that leaves the legislator no choice but to ask the Supreme Court to rein in his obvious abuse of power. Like I said, this happened in Wisconsin, this happened in Oregon. It's kind of happened in Ohio, but I think the governor got kind of forced into that than actually like legitimately like litigiously forced into it. But there's a lot of things going on where like all these people are kind of like are overreaching their power. Then luckily there's starting to be a lot of like litigation against them where like a lot of people, a lot of companies and stuff are actually suing either the state or governors or something like that. So, I mean, if it can be fixed through litigation, that's the best thing. Like, if this keeps going on, and this whole idea that the police are here to, like, serve and protect has kind of been thrown out the window. I mean, some police are, but there's, like, one police officer is like, yeah, like, we don't have the authority to do this, and you put a video out, and then, like, the next day he got put on administrative leave because of the video that he put up. And, like, he got too many views, and, like, no, you got to take it down. He said, no, I'm not going to. I think this was like Port Seattle, Washington. Yeah, that's terrible. So that's it for this video. So if you like this, you can give me a like. If you really liked it, you can like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you can like and give me a follow. And I'm also putting it on BitChute here. If you really would like to support me, I have a subscribe star here. You can donate to and be kind of like a monthly patron. And I'll post all the stuff here. All right. Thanks. Later. Bye. Let me know what you think in the comments below.